So in the spirit of disruption and disrupted behaviour, you'll have all seen one of these before, I'm guessing. My wife is due to give birth on Monday. She's delighted I'm here tonight. So the phone is definitely on, and that might disrupt anything. So I did originally state that I was going to talk about things that I've learned in the 25 years I've been in and around the industry, but I decided yesterday I wasn't going to do that. So what I'm really going to talk about is just things that I've noticed in the last few months. So I ran the European commercial business for Spotify up until about the end of June. And since then I've been consulting at a few places, I've been talking to lots of people, but I've really just been, and it's something I've never had a chance to do before, I've really just been observing what's happening in our industry, and it's quite, where's Prash? It's interesting. I don't have a pitch, aside from myself. I'll be pitching myself to anyone here who wants to offer me gainful employment. But it's interesting, I've just been looking at stuff that I think has been happening that is quite interesting. Now, I've been consulting for about 25 ad tech businesses, and so what I plan to talk about is quite a lot of the specifics around what they're doing from a product perspective and from a monetization perspective, and then from an international expansion perspective. And I'll do no more than 45 minutes on that. I'm not really. As far as I can make out, the world is really around 7 letters. Certainly my world at the moment has been around 7 letters. 3 W's and 4 P's. For most people, the 3 W's are fairly obvious. For me, the 3 W's have been, this is Walton Heath Golf Club. I'm a member at Walton Heath Golf Club, been playing there a lot. Hands up who hasn't watched The West Wing. Right, get out. Honestly, my 3rd time. The West Wing, 23 episodes per series, 7 series. You have watched it, right?
Oh my God.
Best program on TV.
I have them all memorized.
Yeah.
I have all the DVDs.
Best program on
The
TV.
DVDs, not the Netflix.
Yeah.
It's worth the investment.
Best program on TV ever. I'm on my 3rd series. So Walton Heath, West Wing, what I would call waste of time. I've been wasting a lot of my time playing around with Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn for various different reasons, and that is kind of where I've been spending a lot of my time at the moment, in amongst the little bits I've been doing. But all joking aside, there are some things that I think are happening at the moment that are interestingly disruptive, and what I want to do is try and take you out of a world of specifics. I found it wonderfully enlightening to have the young lady from the Telegraph, whose name...
Young lady, you are a friend for life.
I do what I can.
Handsome tall man.
Bless you. Big Chris Maples. I find it wonderfully brilliant that the lady from the Telegraph was turning around. Young lady from the Telegraph.
Young, attractive lady.
I've made a rod for my own back here. Was turning around and moaning about, oh God, the FT have got really wealthy readers.
Hang on, that wasn't a moan. That wasn't a moan. No, that was an observation. I think we have similar.
I think you've probably got about the same lot.
I do. I think it's definitely an observation. It wasn't a moan.
Okay. You can heckle me all you like. I'll come and find you tomorrow and I'll heckle you then. So what I really want to talk is try and lift us out of some specifics and talk about some general stuff that's going on that I think is really interesting and I think has an impact in whatever you're doing. The first one is this. Mobile is happening far quicker than anyone in this room realises. And if you think as a business you have caught up to the pace and change of mobile dominating everything, you haven't. As long as you continue to think about the world being absolutely mobile first, you have a chance of keeping up. It was interesting when Nick was talking earlier on that someone asked the question, do you do desktop to mobile or do you do mobile to desktop? And I was delighted that you said for this stage we did mobile to desktop. That is the only way to look at business these days. Mobile is taking over everything. And I've worked for 2 businesses, most recently Microsoft and Spotify, one of whom missed mobile totally, which was Microsoft. Does anyone here work for Microsoft? Anyone here work for Nokia? A bad company acquiring another bad company does not an amazing product make. Interestingly, does anyone have a Windows phone? Best phone on the market. Absolutely the best phone in the market. Has no chance. They just got there too slowly. Got there far, far too slowly. I worked at Spotify. We thought we were a pretty nimble organisation. I was there for 3.5 years. After 2.5 years, Daniel, my 28-year-old boss and CEO and founder, stopped everything we were doing. Every bit of tech, every bit of development. By that stage, we were about 1,300 people. He stopped it all and said, if we don't start building this business as a mobile-first business, we are going to die, and we will die really, really quickly. And we have seen multiple businesses disrupting through the power of mobile far quicker than anyone else has. Who's got an Uber account? Who had one 4 months ago? Who had one 6 months ago? Oh, fuck off, put your hands down. My point is that didn't exist at all. Just 12 months ago, that business didn't exist. It's now valued, I heard an amazing valuation. Luckily, the CEO is making everyone an enemy at the moment, so we find that interesting. The pace that it takes consumers to pick up and grow and move with new technology is far quicker than any technology company thinks it is. Consumers get technology far quicker than any businesses that are building it think they get it. This is an amazing chart. I was looking for this chart. This chart doesn't exist. It does now. Can anyone read my writing? By the way, I have to lecture my 8-year-old son on handwriting almost every night. It's embarrassing. What I've done here, if you put a basic scatter graph, you've got expensive and cheap here, utility and luxury. Things are moving very, very quickly from luxury to utility, far quicker than ever thought they were. Smartphones used to be up there about 5 to 7 years ago. They were expensive and they were a luxury. Hands up who's got a smartphone, obviously. Everyone's got a smartphone. They are now cheap and a utility. You couldn't live your life without a smartphone. Wearables, which at the moment we're all going, interesting, people have got wearables. A few people have Fitbits on, but what we're hearing about all this other stuff, wearable technology. 2 years' time, everyone's going to be having wearables. It's going to move from up there to down there really, really quickly. Anything you can imagine, anything that people are developing now, if it has a genuine use, is going to be down here quicker than we can predict it. The whole world is being enormously disruptive. We've all talked about or heard about the Internet of Things. For most of us, it is an abstract concept that we vaguely get the idea about. I was talking to someone yesterday who was telling me about a piece of technology that is now, it's a guy from Microsoft who spoke a couple of weeks ago, and he has a hot tub. And that in itself is remarkable. No, he's a technologist, and he's a futurologist as well. So he's got a pretty good CV. He's based in Seattle, which actually means you shouldn't have your hot tub outside anyway, because it's snowing and pouring with rain most of the time. He's got a hot tub, but because he's a technologist, he's wired it up to the internet. So the hot tub knows when whatever chemicals you put in the hot tub are getting to a low, knows when the electronics are running out. The hot tub can then speak directly to his internet and can instantly order the parts that it needs for the hot tub long before he ever knows. That's going to happen to your fridge really, really quickly. In the next, I'm going to say, Bill Gates always said we always overestimated what happened, the pace of change of 5 years, and underestimated the pace of change in 10 years. But within the next 5 to 10 years, we're all going to have fridges that are connected to the internet, and you'll probably plug in your Ocado or Waitrose or Tesco or whatever order it is, and your fridge will know when you're running low on milk or eggs or whatever it is, and it will order them automatically.
But not oysters.
Sorry?
Well, it'll know if you're running short of milk, presumably, or butter, but what if it's
I mean, to be fair, yeah, absolutely. I mean, in these austerity-driven times, I think you're absolutely right. And for any developers out here who want to build up an internet-connected oyster replenishing business, I think the lady there is prepared to put seed capital. Would you call it seed funding for an oyster? Pearl funding.
Your fridge is full of milk.
The irony is my fridge isn't full of milk. My wife is full of milk. Too much? Feels a bit awkward, that. I don't know why I've gone there. Okay. Pace of change is incredibly important, happening quicker than any of us can get our heads round. One of the most interesting disruptive things anyone has done in marketing recently. Does anyone subscribe to The Onion?
Yes.
So you'll all know what I'm about.
Like it on Facebook.
You'll all know what I'm about to say. For those of you who don't, U2, I'm actually a big fan of U2. Will you indulge me for a second? My father's from Dublin, so I spent a lot of my time in Dublin. And I went over there at the age of, this is right off brief, is that okay? That's fine, yeah? I went over, this absolutely genuinely true story. I went over there when I was 16 with my best pal. Him and I play a lot of golf together, and used to. And we went over to Dublin to play some golf, stay with my family. And he was an enormous U2 fan, and he introduced me to U2. They just released The Unforgettable Fire. Great album, great album. And we played a lot of golf, and he said, I'd really like to go to Windmill Lane Studios in the centre of Dublin where U2 recorded all their things. And a bit like Abbey Road, there is a wall with loads of graffiti on. Oh, Bono, we love you, The Edge. Brilliantly, people were writing right to the edge of the wall, The Edge, we love you. So we went there that day. We went to the studios, we did the tour, it was all amazing. That evening, we went to a pub on the north side of Dublin, absolutely true, called the Clontarf Castle in Dollymount. Quite specific now, I get, but bear with me. And we're in there with my two cousins, and my cousin's boyfriend worked behind the bar. And he said, how was your day? And we said, oh, it was amazing. We played golf, and then we went to the Wimble Studios, and we saw all this stuff about U2, and it was absolutely amazing. We chatted to my two cousins, we're having a pint. Bono walks past me. No joke. Just at the cusp of becoming amazingly famous. He walked past me, and I said to my mate, I think Bono's just gone to the toilet. He said, no, he hasn't. Don't be daft. Why would he be in here? I said, I don't know. I'm pretty certain he's just gone to the... Remember when Bono used to wear a beret? I said, I'm pretty certain he's gone to the toilet. By the way, has anyone ever met Bono? He's about that big. Has anyone ever met anyone from television? They're all about that big. So I said, come, go to the toilet, come on. So... It's Bono, so we come back out to my cousins and go, fucking hell, Bono's in the toilet. Has anyone got any Irish in them? You'll know, no one, amazing. The Irish are fairly okay about this sort of stuff. She went, well, let's go and talk to him. I said, no, we can't talk to him. She went over and said, oh, hi, Bono, like she knew him. My cousin's over here from England. He's a massive fan. They've just been to the studios. Do you mind if he chats to you for a bit? Bono went, okay. And we sat down and had 10 minutes with Bono. The most awkward conversation I've ever had. Definitely the most awkward thing he's ever had. Anyway, I transgress. This was an interesting piece of disruption, right? New album, first album for about 7 years, giving it away on iTunes. Now, when I say giving it away, an enormous marketing ploy by Apple. Apple paid them far more than they'd have ever got through iTunes for selling it. What was really interesting was the backlash. And The Onion came out with the best parody about this that I've ever come across ever, which was, and I quote, Bono to take a shit in your sock drawer. We're going to force Bono on you in a place you don't want it, and you're going to be able to do nothing about it. But interesting. Totally disrupting the normal process of launching albums. I'm not doing a sales pitch, but I have to cover off Taylor Swift. I'm actually a big fan of Taylor Swift, weirdly, as a 44-year-old man. But her particular spat with Spotify at the moment is quite interesting, because there was then a rumour straight afterwards that she'd actually given the rights to Google's latest incarnation of a music streaming service. By the way, I was there at Spotify for 3.5 years. Google launched 3 of them when I was there. For some reason, they didn't figure it out. I was at Microsoft for 3.5 years before that, and Microsoft had launched countless streaming services. But the rumour was that Taylor Swift had pulled off of Spotify because she was doing the same thing that U2 had done with Apple with Google. As it turns out, that's a load of rubbish. But the fact that she pulls off of Spotify creates an enormous amount of PR and marketing. In one way, it opens up the conversation about streaming versus downloads, about paid versus free. I can't help thinking she's a bit smarter than that, and she knows that if she was still on Spotify, she'd have made about 5 million quid in about the first 2 weeks of her album going live. It feels like it was a marketing thing to me. It feels like it might have been PR. It feels like they might have got it wrong, or they might have got it right. But what I do know is more and more people are talking about Taylor Swift's album now than they ever were before. And if you're on Facebook or Twitter, the amount of stuff going on about that particular thing was enormous. And it's different to the way things have happened before. Everyone is disrupting everything all of the time. So we can sit here and talk about disruption in the ad tech space, or we can sit here and talk about how we're re-engineering newspapers from back to front and left, right and centre. The truth is the whole world is being disrupted far more than we ever gave it credit for. And that is the stuff that we have to keep up a pace with. Just finishing on the music note, who watched X Factor at the weekend? The launch of Band-Aid 30. Bob Geldof, Sir Bob, Saint Bob as he's known, by far and away one of the most respected people in the music industry, not just for what he's done, not just for the awful stuff that he's lived through in his life, but for what he did for aid in Africa twice. No one had a bad word to say about Bob Geldof until this time. Not just launching it on X Factor, but suddenly, because of we live in a world now. When was Live 8? Tom, you might know this. When was Live 8? 1984. No, Live Aid was 1984. July the 13th, 1985. No, the one after, the most recent thing, the Coldplay, the second incarnation of it. Was it 2005? It was about 2005, right? So that is what, 9 years ago. And social media and the impact that that is having on everyone's ability to pontificate, ability to express an opinion, ability to corral support, but also their ability to find out information about people has changed dramatically. So from being Saint Bob and doing amazing things, in my mind, he's only tried to do the same thing again, and he's got enormous amounts of backlash. Now, because of the power of social media, what he tried to do was he tried to fierce Adele into being part of this. And Adele went, actually, I give quite a lot of money to charity myself, and I don't want to be part of this, and I'm just bringing up my kids. And so the backlash has gone right against Bob Geldof, which is amazing, because in the last 25 years, he's been one of the saints of the industry. And the song is terrible. And you can't recognise almost anyone in it. And this time, they have YouTube vloggers singing alongside what I would call, in inverted commas, credible artists.
Marilyn.
Huh?
It's the equivalent of Marilyn.
Exactly, it's right, it's Marilyn, that's exactly right, yeah. Never made it to the second one. But brilliantly, Bono does the same line again, in all three. It's all connected, this presentation, have you noticed that? Bono does the same line again. What line does Bono do? No one? Come on, I'm not going to sing it. But you know the famous line that Bono does in... Yeah, but you need to do it more raspy than that, more raspy. I'm not doing it. I wish I'd done that. I wish I'd put the clip in. Oh, it's that big. I haven't met a single person that isn't that big. And I'm including all of you in that. Moving away from music a little bit, I think there's something really interesting happened this week. The launch, or at least the publication of the future launch of Facebook for Work. I think the commentators have got this totally wrong. Most people are talking about Facebook disrupting... Hang on. Tom's just tweeted me. Your wife is pregnant? How do you know? Most of the commentary seems to be saying that Facebook are building a LinkedIn killer. Has everyone read that? Everyone picked up on that? I can't think of anything Facebook could be bothered to do less than build a LinkedIn killer. Facebook are building an operating system. Facebook are building a competitor to Google Apps, to Office, to all of those things. The key word in the announcement for this wasn't that you could chat to your colleagues at work, wasn't that you could get on with your colleagues at work, it was that you could collaborate on pieces of work. They're building a platform that could well, for startups and small businesses, replace Office or replace Google Apps, and I think that's the really interesting thing. That is an enormous piece of disruption. Who's got a Facebook account? Who hasn't got a Facebook account? One man. Brilliant. Your friends must be like that. Oh, for God's sake, will you just get a Facebook account? Even if you don't use it, just get one. I think that's a really interesting piece of disruption that isn't in their sweet spot, but Facebook are very quickly and very clearly building out capability in lots of areas that aren't just social networks. In fact, in 5 years' time, if Facebook are still referred to as a social network, I will be amazed. I think they're building a really interesting operating system. Well, the other thing I think is really interesting is that you have these 4 enormous behemoths in the technology industry, all of whom are competing directly with each other, except all of them are collaborating with each other now as well. The launch this week, or the announcement this week that Satya, CEO of Microsoft, that their .NET developer platform, developer products are now available on iOS, is the first understanding at Microsoft that you can't do anything in a walled garden anymore. So building things and allowing them to have access to on all different platforms is the thing that is disrupting the world quicker than anything else now, I think. That no longer do you have these single companies that have a single focus that things will work just in and of themselves. We knew it as Spotify. At Spotify, in the 3.5 years I were there, we made our service available on smart TVs, through speaker systems, in car, through Uber now, which was the announcement I think went out this week. Bad timing for them, but you know, take your product, if it's successful, allow people to get access to it in as many different ways as they possibly can. Microsoft built up an amazing business building a walled garden. They're not anymore. Their philosophy now is build things and create access to everyone, because they're realizing that all of these platforms are building at such a pace that you can't create these little walled gardens anymore. Apple are the last company to do it, but I suspect they'll do it pretty quickly. Facebook have always been a platform-neutral business. They started on desktop, then they went to mobile really quickly, and in a year of moving on to mobile, 75% of their income came through mobile. That is the pace of change in this organisation, in this business, and I think that is the thing that is most terrifying and scary. And if you look at the last 5 acquisitions for each of those companies, if you'd gone back 5 years ago, you would never have understood why they built them. Facebook buy an Oculus Rift. It's a virtual reality business. I don't know what they're going to do with that, but I guarantee I will know in 6 months' time, and in 2 years' time, it will be something that we're using for some reason I'm not sure about. But these things are happening really, really quickly. So if I was going to summarize, if you can at all summarize what I've just said, and interestingly, I've said a lot of different things to what I thought I was going to say, and therefore the summary probably is meaningless, but I'll try and summarize it. Pace is absolutely critical. Whatever you're doing, whatever your businesses are, and again, I was delighted that Nick was talking about pace and agility in the Guardian business. You have to do things quicker tomorrow than you did today, and quicker next week than you're doing tomorrow. Islands are increasingly obsolete. You can't be an island anymore. Partnerships are everything. And the 4 Ps I was talking about: pace, partnerships, promotion, profit. They're the things that are really interesting, not the 4 Ps that people normally cling to. PR, advertising, marketing, it's totally blurred lines now. Totally blurred lines. I don't think there is anyone that is a specialist. If there's any business that are specialists in one of those divisions there, they're going to be obsolete pretty quickly. You have to know all of this stuff, and you have to be aware of this stuff. My own view, which isn't on here, is that as long as if you're taking 100 decisions, as long as 51 of them are the right decisions, you're probably moving in the right direction. But be prepared to make 49 mistakes out of 100. Got to empower all of your people to make as many mistakes as they have to. Because if you don't, if you keep trying to do something, testing it again, releasing it, you'll miss it. Someone else would have done it quicker. We changed at Spotify to a series of A/B testing. I think Nick was talking about that as well. Release, iterate, release, iterate, release, iterate. It's the only way you can go through business. Got to be open-minded, got to be open-sourced, got to allow collaboration, got to be open to new things, got to work with platforms that you never thought you would work with before, and got to be open-minded to the fact that products and platforms that you don't think are relevant to you now could be relevant to you tomorrow. and think about that. I don't know what that was, but I hope that was meaningful or useful in some way. Thank you.